Yep, it's yours. And I'm out of here.
Good morning. Good morning. Come on, guys. Good morning. All right, thank you. I needed that more than you did because I'm still tired. My wife kept me up till 2 o'clock in the morning. So I'm kind of tired, but I'm excited to be here. My name is Jonathan Mcmillan, and I am essentially a community advocate and activist around young people and their rights. And this is my partner here for the day and one of my good friends.
Hi, everybody. My name's Hannah Proff. I'm an attorney. I'm a criminal and juvenile defense attorney, so I specialize in representing adults and kids who are charged with crimes, mostly violent crimes. I do a little work here in the Springs. I'm mostly in Denver, though. And I run a nonprofit that teaches kids about their constitutional rights. So today's going to be fun, really interactive, so I think hopefully you'll learn a lot.
Cool. So somebody raise their hand and tell me why they chose to take this particular workshop. Anyone? I will call on you if you don't raise your hands. All right, you right here, see? Why did you choose to take this workshop? What's your name?
My name is Ophthalmolic, and I chose to take this workshop because I couldn't find a better one.
I will take that as a compliment. He couldn't find a better one, and I would agree with that. Why do you think this workshop is important? Someone? What's your name?
My name's Colin. I think it's important because, when you get pulled over, you have to go to court or something. You can understand what you need to do.
Absolutely. Thank you, Colin. So this is really, really important because the number one thing, well, I won't say number one, but one of the things as an American citizen you are guaranteed are your constitutional rights. And unfortunately, there's kind of this gap that exists between the citizens who everybody has these constitutional rights and law enforcement officers who they have a job to do, but they may not completely be aware of constitutional rights when they pull you over or when you have police contact. And so what we try to do is make sure that that gap is filled in and that you know what your rights are when you have that contact with a law enforcement officer. Now, I love to say this, that some of the narratives that we see on TV about bad cops and good cops, and I think that for the most part, there's a lot of good cops, but they may not know exactly what your rights are. And that's why it's important that we give you that information and we give you tools to put into your back pocket. So literally, do we have literally give you tools in your back pocket so that when you have those police contacts, you are not giving up your rights and you're able to safely navigate that conversation so that everybody gets home that day. All right, so I'm going to pass it on to Hannah, and then we're going to get started.
So I'm going to give you all a business-size card that's a little know your rights cheat sheet. And we're going to run through some hypothetical situations here this morning, and you'll have this information to kind of help you decide how you all and your cohort should respond in situations with the police. I talk to a lot of police officers, and the bottom line is they like when people understand their rights because it actually makes their job easier. If you clearly and decisively say things like, I'm not going to talk, I'm not going to let you search me or my stuff, I want my lawyer, the police are trained to know what to do. It's harder for them when you don't know your rights and you are, well, I don't know if I should talk, should I talk? I don't know if I should open up my trunk, should I open up my trunk? Then that's when they're gonna lead you into what they want. Of course they want you to talk. Of course they want you to open up your trunk, okay? So I'm gonna hand these out and then we can go through these rights and then we're gonna start running through some of the hypotheticals and see how it actually works in situations, okay?
So you wanna give me half the stack?
Sure.
All right. You're welcome.
There should be enough there.
You're welcome.
you go. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Hi. Of course.
You're welcome. Thank you. You're welcome.
There enough? Did everybody get one?
To you.
Okay.
To you.
Okay, so everybody has the cards in their hands now.
I need to
The
get
first one,
1, 2, 3.
am
4.
I free
You have
to
3 more?
leave? 3 more, yeah. There you go. Does anybody know what constitutional amendment allows you to walk away sometimes when the police contact you? Good guess. We're going to talk about the fifth. It's the fourth. The Fourth Amendment, is that what you said? You should have spoken up. Good work. So the Fourth Amendment is the amendment to the United States Constitution that says that you're free from illegal seizures. What does that mean? That means we don't live in a police state, luckily, right? If I leave this presentation today after this and I pass a police officer, if he says, can I look in your bag? Do you think I have to let him look in my bag? No, right? I'm allowed to walk away unless he has reasonable suspicion or probable cause. What about number 2? What was that amendment you mentioned? The fifth, right? The Fifth Amendment. Who knows what the Fifth Amendment stands for? Yes, you don't, okay. Do you know? The right to remain silent, right? Give them the fifth, or as we say at Lyric, give them 5, right? I am going to remain silent. I'm not going to talk to you, okay? Why do you think you might want to remain silent when you're contacted by the police? Exactly, the fear of self-incrimination. Can you tell us more what that means? Exactly. So anything, the fear of self-incrimination. If you tell the police, yes, I did steal from Target, but X, Y, and Z, you've just admitted a crime, right? And without you admitting that crime, they have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt in a criminal or a juvenile courtroom, right? What about number 3? I want my lawyer. So that's the Sixth Amendment right to counsel. Every person has a right to an attorney in the case when they might go to jail or detention. Do people under 18 go to jail? Not generally, but they can go to juvenile detention, right? Juvenile hall. So if you can't afford a lawyer, do you get a lawyer still? What's that person called? A public defender, exactly. And sometimes people have negative feelings about public defenders. They think they're overworked, they're not as good as a private attorney. I'll tell you that I was a public defender for 7 years, and now I'm a private attorney. I'm exact same caliber attorney I was then as I am now. Like Jonathan said about police officers, there's good cops, there's bad cops, there's good public defenders, there's bad public defenders, there's bad private lawyers, and there's good private lawyers. What about saying you want your parent or guardian? Why do you think you'd say that? Because you're a minor, right? In Colorado, we actually have additional laws that protect young people and allow their parents to also be told their rights. What do you think my advice is as a lawyer if you say you want to remain silent and your grandma, who's your guardian, says you should talk? Stay silent. They're your rights, right? If grandma gets arrested, she can make her own decision. I would also tell her to remain silent, but it's your decision. But the law is there in the hopes that a parent or a guardian might know more than a young person knows about the Constitution. That's maybe not the case after you've taken this presentation, but so ask your parent. And what about you consenting to the search of you or your stuff? So your colleague here says they have to have a warrant. Who here thinks they have to have a warrant to search my purse in the parking lot after this presentation? Some hands? Yep, good. These are good guesses. Don't be, yeah, definitely. I think that's, the TV kind of makes you think that. Unfortunately, they don't need a warrant. They could, if they're arresting me, they're going to get to search my purse. If they have reasonable suspicion or probable cause that I'm armed and dangerous and I have a weapon in my purse, they're going to be able to search. Why do you think they don't have to go get a warrant in that situation? Say again? Exactly. They want to react right then and there. What does a warrant look like? Anybody here want to be a police or a detective, FBI agent? I think it'd be a cool job, maybe, right? No. Warrants take a lot of time. They have to go back to their computer and type them out. I was just reading a warrant before I got on the road this morning on a murder case, and it's 125 pages long, right? It's not like something that you put together in 3 minutes when you see someone you think is armed and dangerous, right? So if they need to act quickly, the law allows them to do that for all of our safety, right? But generally, how do you think the police usually search people's backpacks, let's say, on the street? With a warrant? Because they think they're armed and dangerous? Any ideas? They ask consent, exactly. They ask, hey, ma'am, do you mind if I look in your purse? And I don't know my rights, so I say, sure, it's a cop, right? I feel like I can't say no. So we're going to run through some scenarios today and let you kind of see how this plays out, that when you know your rights, you actually can say no to things you might feel like you can't say no to, okay? So let's get started.
Print out the scenarios.
Oh, I have them on my iPad too. You got them? Yeah. Okay, we're gonna pull up the scenarios. Who wants to? We need some volunteers, right?
We need some volunteers.
Anybody want to volunteer? All right. Wow, we got a lot of volunteers. Let's do first row. How many do we need for the first one? We'll get to everybody who wants to volunteer.
Hold on 1 second.
So no one raised their hand when I asked if I want to be a cop or an FBI agent. Anybody want to be a lawyer? Oh yeah? Oh no, in real life. You used to want to be? What changed your mind? Okay. All right. So now what are you going to do? Oh, better. We always laugh that people who become doctors just weren't smart enough to become lawyers, right? I mean, people who become lawyers weren't smart enough to become doctors, the other way around. It's definitely me. I couldn't have been a doctor.
Okay, in this first scenario,
Go ahead.
I need someone to volunteer to be an officer. Come on up. I need one more officer, one more volunteer for an officer. All right, great. Come on up. What's your name?
Lawrence.
Lawrence. So you're Officer Lawrence now, okay?
Raphael.
Raphael. Matter of fact, you're Sergeant Lawrence. That means you're the senior officer on scene. Okay? Okay. You sure about that? Okay. Lawrence and Raphael, right? All right. So now I need a volunteer to be a store owner. Come on up. I'm already pulling you up. Come on up. You are going to be our contactee, meaning you are just minding your business, and I'll give you some more information. What's your name? Abdul-Malik. Good to meet you. What's your name?
Aeneas.
Aeneas. I am going to forget everybody's name in like 2 minutes, so don't take it personal. All right. Then need one more volunteer to be a witness. All right. I'm going to get this side of the room for the next scenario. Okay, here's the scenario. Who's my store owner? Come over here. So you are going to call the police because this young man has been hanging out in front of your store. It hasn't been bothering, it hasn't bought anything, hasn't come in, and for the most part, it's just making you kind of feel uncomfortable, okay? You are a witness who happened to be at the store, okay? And you haven't seen him do anything. He was just kind of minding his business, and, just you happen to be a witness on scene, okay? Now, you guys are my officers. Okay, so bring, 911. You get the call. You guys get the call that, well, it has to be a radio, but you did that good. All right, so you get the call that the store owner would like for you to show up to talk to this young man who's been hanging out in front of the store. Now, because you're the sergeant, you're going to kind of have to take lead and make sure that this officer here is behaving or asking the correct questions. All right? Action. Hello, 911. Okay, can you describe the young man for me? Sir, I can't see you. We're on the phone. Oh, okay. And I will send officers right away. Now, this is 911 calling the officers. We have a report of a young man hanging out in front of his store. A young man of color, a possibly black male or Latino. Can you go check it out for us, please? Okay, I'm gonna come over here with the mic. I'm not here. I'm just.
Sir, is there a problem going on? We got a call that you seem to be a suspect of walking around a lot. Is something going on?
No, sir. I'm just standing here.
What have you been doing this whole time?
I have the right to remain silent, and I want a lawyer.
We haven't done nothing yet.
I have the right to remain silent.
What about patting him down for weapons? That's probably a
Okay.
good idea, officer.
Can I search you real quick?
No, you may not.
Do I have reason to suspect that you are carrying weapons with you right now?
No, sir.
What else would you want to know about him? So you've gotten this call that this young man is just kind of hanging out in front of the store. You approached him. Is there anything that you would want to know about him or you?
Have you been waiting for anyone?
Sure.
What about his name?
Sir, what is your name?
Ophthalmic.
Okay.
You guys want to pause real quick? You want to ask the store owner what's going on? He said, if you run away, I'll catch you.
Hello, Mr. Store owner. What is your name?
My name's Aeneas Penaflor. I own the store for 40 years now, and this young man has been bothering me.
For how long?
He's been sitting here since I have opened.
So how long is that?
2 hours.
Do you know him from anywhere?
No, I do not. I've never seen this man in my life.
All right, so based off of your conversation with the store owner, is there anything else that you would like to ask the suspect or the contactee? Or even the store owner?
Or the witness. We also have a witness
Yeah.
who's seen this.
So what have you seen him doing?
Nothing.
What is your name is?
I don't have to tell you that.
Okay, that's smooth. Okay, I get that. So have you been seeing this man walk around for 2 hours?
Yeah. He's just been standing.
So she's been here for 2 hours too, huh? Now I have questions.
Second suspect.
All right, is there anything you want to ask the suspect based off your conversation with the store owner and the witness?
No.
Do you know the man that was walking around for 2 hours?
No.
So you believe that he was doing nothing, just standing there?
Yes.
All right, Ben.
Okay, is loitering a crime, officers? Are you allowed to loiter on public property? This nice store owner's worried about the front of his building.
What's that?
Public property.
Public property and private property. So is that a crime? You guys? Hanging out, yes. So hanging out in front of the store, a privately owned store, or even like the sidewalk in front of it, is that a crime? Yes, no, maybe. All right, I will call on you guys. Look, I will come over here and sit down. What do you think? Is it a crime?
Sure.
Sure. Okay, we got one. Does anybody think that it's not a crime? Raise your hand. Okay. Why do you think it's not a crime?
Because it's public property.
Okay. So we're going to pause this scenario for just a second and weigh in with the legal opinion.
So first of all, I told you that you needed to remain silent, and our volunteer suspect did a great job at that, sort of, and then he kind of forgot and talked again. But do you have to tell with our witness, is there anything you have to say to the cops, or can you just remain silent? Remember, our witness said she's remaining silent when they asked her name. Is she allowed to do that? Okay. Can anybody make an argument of why maybe she's not allowed to do that?
Who says she's not allowed to be silent as a witness? You kind of said yes, so I'm going to...
Wait, what?
You kind of raised your hand, so I'm going to take that as a... Why do you think she's allowed not to talk to the cops?
Because they got to know who she is. Like, know her name.
Exactly. Every single person has to tell their cops two things. Guess what they are? Your full name. What about me? I have a sister who's 4 years younger than me, and we look really, really similar. I know her name, I know her social security number, I know her birthday. Can I give the cops her name? I could, but if I get caught, then I'm going to have charges for whatever they're contacting me for and giving false information, which is a felony. And also, what if she's got warrants and then I get arrested on something she's done, right? So you have to give them your full name. What's the other thing you always have to tell the cops? Close. The guests up here, their age, your date of birth, right? Why do you think that is? So they know who you are, right?
Yep.
What if I'm the most wanted criminal in Colorado and the cops stop me and I don't have to tell them my name and my date of birth? What are they going to do when you get your name and date of birth? They're going to run you. Are there warrants? Are you a runaway? You know, all of that information. Do you have if you're driving, do you have a valid driver's license? Or those sort of things. After that, you should remain silent, right? What if loitering is a crime, which it is? You guys were right about public versus private property. Sometimes there's public property that's closed, right? Like things like parks. Certain parks have hours, right? You can't be there after 10 p.m. Can you be charged with loitering after 10 p.m.? Yes. But it is a crime to loiter on private property and even sometimes public property if it's closed or you've been told to leave, right? So by saying that he's just admitting that he's just been sitting there for 2 hours, could that come back and hurt him later in a court of law? If this shop owner owns this sidewalk, or we don't know what the shop looks like, right? Is it right on a city street? Is it set back into a parking lot? So those of you who are watching, where do you think our suspect made mistakes here?
Or did he handle it correctly? What do you think? Do you think he made any mistakes? No?
What about you? What would you have done differently?
Maybe I wouldn't have said I've been standing here for a while.
I think maybe that would have been a good idea, right? You did such a good job of saying, I want to remain silent, but then why did you start talking again? Is it hard to actually stay silent? It's really hard, right? I recently got pulled over for a speeding ticket in the middle of nowhere, Colorado, and the cop walked up to me, and the very first thing he said is, do you know how fast you were going? It is hard to say, officer, I'm going to assert my right to remain silent. It's awkward. Most people don't do it. And then the cop, how do you think the cop reacted when I said that? He was mad, right? Yeah, he wasn't happy with me. He kept me on the side of the road for over an hour. He did what, if I had just said, oh, I'm sorry, officer, I was going 10 over, I'm trying to get to this prison to visit a client, maybe it would have been different. But since I asserted my rights, it got harder. And as he talked to me more, the harder it got. So how was that to actually try to assert your rights?
It was pretty hard.
Pretty awkward, right? Yeah.
And so I want to interject this. It was awkward with your peers, right? What if this is a fully grown man with the authority of a badge and a firearm, sidearm? It's even more difficult. But that does not mean that you do not have that right anymore. You still can assert your right to be silent. Okay? Are we good with that? So, let's ask about our witness. Let's ask about our witness. How was it interacting with the officers? Did it feel awkward to you?
No, it was fine.
It was fine. You were pretty good at saying, I don't want to talk to you. But then you did answer some questions. Was that just because you wanted to get it over with, or why?
Because I want to get it over with.
All right, thank you. You guys can have a seat.
Do
Thank you.
witnesses and victims have to talk to the police? No. But if you're the victim of a crime or you witness a crime, of course there are lots of reasons you might want to talk to the police, right? If I call the police's job is to protect and serve, right? If someone steals something from me or hurts me, I might want to call the police and tell them what happened, right? But if I see a crime, can anybody think of reasons why I might not want to talk to the cops? There could be trauma associated with interacting with the police, reliving whatever I saw. Other ideas? Sure. Sometimes maybe.
What did he say?
He said you felt bad for the person. Maybe it's someone you know, right? You're with your friend and the cop says, hey, what did you see your friend just do? You are allowed to remain silent in that situation. You don't have to say anything. But of course you can, if you want to say this is what my friend did or this is what happened, you can, because you're a witness and not a suspect.
And to our witness's point, she decided that she wanted to talk just because she wanted to get it over with. That may not always be the wisest thing to do. Because once you enter into the realm of speaking to the cops, even as a witness, you now become a witness. So if there's court proceedings, you may now be called into court proceedings, and it's some of the longest lasting experiences of your life, right? Court cases can go on for months, and it's not just getting over it with at that point. So, all right, good job, guys. We have another scenario. Give our volunteers a round of applause. All right, scenario number 2. I need a volunteer driver. Matter of fact, let's get our car ready.
Who wants to be our driver? Well, we already had, can we get new volunteers?
Give me somebody from over here on this side. I will volunteer you. Come on.
Oh, we've got a new person over here.
Okay.
Come on up. Great.
Both hands, both of you guys can come up because I need a passenger as well.
Come on up. Yeah.
All right. I need 2 more officers. No, you were an officer last time. I need a new officer. Okay, yes. 1 more. Come on. Come on. Come on, Officer Shy Girl. Come on up. Now, I need you to be mean in this, okay? Can you be mean? Okay, she said yes, so. All right. So here's the scenario.
That's dangerous.
Yes.
I keep tripping on that too.
Scenario number 2. You're the driver, right? I'm sure. What's your name?
Leandro.
All right, Leandro. Your name?
Rafael.
Raphael. Your name?
Abdulmalik.
And your name?
Samaya.
All right, thank you guys. So we have our young man driving here about 10 o'clock, and you're just riding with him. And you guys get pulled over, flashing lights. You
What do
check
you
your
s- Go ahead. Sorry.
you check your speedometer, and you see that you are within the speed limit. Okay, say it's a 45, you're going 40. Okay, but it's a dark road. So as you see the lights behind you, you drive about another 2 blocks to find a well-lit area, and you pull over. Okay? Where's my mean officer? Come here, mean officer. Samaya? All right. Now, hold on a second. So she's going to be my mean officer. And you all right, you guys ready? Action. Why didn't he pull over?
Oh, why didn't you pull over?
Sorry, officer, I reserve the right to remain silent.
May I see your license and registration?
Oh, okay.
Okay, pause.
Okay. Do you have to have a license and registration to drive? Yes. Do you have to show it to the officers when they ask for it? Yes. Can you do that without talking? Sure. So you have a license and registration, you keep it somewhere close, right? Some people keep it like above on their visor, some people keep it right in their center console or their glove box. So you're giving it to her, right? Yep, you go back to your cop car.
And then we'll go over to be continued.
What's your name?
I have the right to remain silent.
Where are you coming from?
All right, pause.
Okay, do you have the right to remain silent as to your name? No. No. Okay, so let's try that again.
What's your name?
Raphael?
Where are you coming from?
Okay, pause. So what do you guys think so far? Pretty good? All right. So what questions can the officer ask the passenger? The date of birth. I heard date of birth. What other questions can the officer ask the passenger, if any? Are you drunk? Okay. Yes, ma'am. To see his license. Okay. 2 good questions. Are you guys intoxicated? And may I see your license? This is the passenger, so pause for legal opinion.
Okay, does a passenger in a car have to carry a license? No. Do I have to carry a driver's license when I'm out walking on the streets of Colorado Springs? No, right? We don't live in a police state where we all have to have our ID all the time. You probably have to have your ID at your school to show that you're a student there, and you have to have your ID when you're driving or when you're traveling on an airplane in those times, right? But the passenger, he doesn't have to have an ID, right? He could not have a license, he could not have an ID. So you can't demand, the cops can't demand an ID of a passenger. What do you think the cops usually try to do if they think the driver has committed a crime with the passenger? Step out of the car, right? And why do they want a passenger to step out of the car? Exactly. One of the things that police officers are trained in the Reed manual that teaches them how to interrogate people and talk to suspects is they are trained to separate people in the hopes that someone will point the finger at the other person. I have a murder case right now where they took my client into a room and they told him that they had his DNA and that his co-defendant had snitched on him. Do you think they can tell him those 2 things if they're not true? He was 16 years old. The cops can lie to you and make misrepresentations to get you to speak to them and to admit things. Do you think it's pretty hard for my client to try to claim he wasn't part of the murder when they say they have his DNA and his co-defendant snitched? Yeah. They can't process DNA in 2 hours. It takes months and months. And his co-defendant had asked for a lawyer, right? So they often try to kind of separate people. Okay, so the cops maybe aren't stopping this guy because they think he was speeding, right? Maybe they saw him leave what they think is a drug house, or maybe they think he's, about to commit some kind of crime, right? So that's what they'll often do with a passenger.
All right, so we're going to resume, with that new knowledge, we're going to resume our scenarios, okay? We'll go back over here to the driver's side.
Okay, so I processed your license and I need you to step out of the vehicle now.
That's a great look.
It is.
If I had a camera, that would be a meme, like, she processed his license and I need you to step out of the vehicle now.
Does she have to tell him what she found when she processed his license? No. The police never have to give you details of a pending investigation. Why is that?
So that you don't have knowledge and be like ahead, or?
Exactly. So the police get to keep what they know about you and about a suspected crime to themselves, so that you can't do something to interfere with their investigation, right? Text your friends and say, get rid of the drugs or whatever, or text the other people, give any information. So we have someone who is really remaining silent and doing an excellent job. You're doing like the best job ever remaining silent. But does he have to get out of the car when a cop says to get out of the car? Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Now let's play on the passenger side.
What's your date of birth?
August 25th, 2006.
How long have you known this gentleman?
Boom. Okay.
Are you intoxicated? Oh, step out that car right now.
All right, pause.
Okay. So do you think it's a good idea? Can you just remain silent, or do you have to say to the cops, I want to remain silent? It's better to say it, or they might think something's going on with you, right? Like cops are trained to look for people who are intoxicated, people who are on drugs, people who are, struggling with some kind of mental disease or defect, right? So you definitely want the police to know that you're in your right mind, and there's nothing that shows you're in your right mind more than clearly and effectively stating your rights. So I think you sort of did it earlier, and we're stopping and starting, but after you give your full name and your date of birth, the next question, are you intoxicated, is when you say, I want to remain silent, okay?
Does the passenger need to also exit the vehicle?
What do you guys think? I kind of started to cheat and give you the answer there, right? Yes, you have got to follow orders from police officers. What if they are unlawful? What if this cop is breaking all the constitutional rules right now? Can you not do what he says? You still have to. When do you bring up that the cop messed up?
Later during your interrogation or in the courtroom?
Exactly,
Absolutely.
in the courtroom. That's where your Sixth Amendment right to an attorney. It's going to be the attorney that usually points out how the cop messed up, not the person on the street. Because how do you think it goes over if I start arguing with the cop about him messing up the law and violating my rights? Does that go over well? No. Okay.
All right, thanks, you guys. You have your seats. Thank you very much.
Good
Everybody give them a
job.
round of applause. They did a great job. And I want to emphasize that last point about the right time to argue your rights. Now, there's a difference between asserting your rights. This is a great time right here. When you're in the car and you're having that first police contact, this is a great time to assert your rights. This is the right time to assert your rights, but the wrong time to argue your rights. Because remember, in these scenarios, in any police contact, what is the ultimate goal? What's that?
What's the ultimate goal in any police contact? To To get away safely.
Absolutely. That you make it home that day, that night. So the last thing, and while, you know, there's moral arguments to be had about who should be the one de-escalating these situations, ultimately, your ultimate right is for your safety, your protection, for you to make it home to your mom, your dad in one piece. And if you have to take on the responsibility of de-escalating the situation by just complying, I hope you do that for your safety. Now, by no means am I saying that every officer is untrained in de-escalation and that is going to go over the top. But like Hannah mentioned, sometimes people got egos, and you start to challenge people when the adrenaline is going and they have their colleague in front of them and you're showing them, I'm not going to do what you said, Mr. Officer. And he's like, you want to bet? You want to bet? Who's going to win in that scenario? Every single time. Every single time. All right, we have one more scenario to cover. Yes. Yes, one more. All right, I need a bunch of you this time. I need about 5 people, just, okay, 3, 4, 5. Come on up. And I need one person over here to play my officer. Come on, one person over here, play my officer. I like how everybody's like looking away from me. Please don't pick me. Please don't pick me.
Best role, right? It's got all the power.
You two, you're now a team. Come on up. All right, so let's see. All right. All right, action. I want 911. Officer Nadriana and Officer
Hinton.
Hinton. All right. There's been a call about extremely loud music at the house that you're over by right now. Can you go by there and check it out, please? All right, action.
Somebody called that there was loud music.
Is there a parent home?
I have the right to remain silent.
What is your name?
Raphael.
What is your age?
I don't know what's right here. 14.
All right, pause. How's everything going so far?
Okay, so they came to a house, right? This is a house call. So you knocked on the door. Okay. So did Raphael need to answer the door? Okay. So if it's the police, you have to answer the door?
That's what I saw on TV.
Okay, again, we're getting our legal advice from TV. That's all right. You do not have to answer your door when the police come to your door. But I say that to you with a couple big caveats. When would you have to open the door, for sure? If there's a warrant, is that what you said? Yes, if there's a warrant. What does a warrant look like? A big stack of paper with a signature from a judge. Yes. Generally, it's not always a big stack of paper. Sometimes it's a couple pages, sometimes one page. But they all look different, but it's an affidavit signed by a judge with a judge's seal on it. So if you're home, do you have to answer the door when door-to-door salesmen come to the door? No, right? So the police are the same way, right? But if they have a warrant, a valid search warrant, and you don't answer the door, what do you think that they can do? Yeah, they can break down the door, and they generally, when they break down the door, what else do? They usually throw like smoke bombs. They often bring dogs, a SWAT team, essentially.
Yep.
Why do you think the cops do that? For their own protection, right? It's dangerous to barrel into someone's house. And why don't you think the cops give people notice when they're coming to serve search warrants?
So that they don't procure and hide the evidence and stuff?
Exactly. Right. Get rid of whatever contraband is in the house, whatever evidence is in the house. They don't want to give notice of that, right? But what about if you're just having a party, your parents are out of town, you're having a party, and the cops knock on the door? Do you have to answer? No, right? But sometimes they can enter. And I'll tell you that how most high school parties get busted is that people are walking out of the house and someone just lets the cops in. Who has the right to let someone into your house? The owner of the house, right? So if you're home and your guardian is home, who has the right to let them into the house?
The guardian.
Right? The person who owns the house. What about if my house with my husband, can I let someone in to the house I own with my husband? Yes. I mean, can the cops? If the cops come to my door and ask me if they can come in, can I let them in? Yes.
Okay, so
Right.
let's pick it up here. You guys keep partying. Party, party, party. Party, party, party. Nope, door's still open. My officers are here. All right. Now,
Can I come in? Can I come in?
Sure.
all right, so now the officers are in the house.
What's your name?
Jamari.
What's your age?
I have the right to remain silent.
What's your name?
Octavia.
What's your age?
16. What's your name?
Lawrence?
What's your age?
Kool-Aid.
What's your name?
Abdulmalik.
What's your age?
21.
Okay, so let's pause it here. Couple of things kind of popped up here. So my man here said his age was Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid. What flavor is the Kool-Aid, right? What do you think the officers can do now? Well, first off, let's ask the question. Do the officers have the right to ask anybody in the house their name and ages? Who thinks yes? Yes, typically, yeah.
The correct question is name and date of birth, but I think that age, since they could extrapolate that from your date of birth, I don't think you should shy away from answering that.
So how many people think it's okay for the cops to ask everybody at the party their name and age or date of birth? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And the answer is?
Yes.
All right.
Once you're the person in charge of the house, let them into the house, then yes.
All right. Now, the next scenario is my man, Mr. Kool-Aid. Now that he has hasn't complied with the request of age, what now happens? Does he get arrested? Legal answer is?
Probably not just for that, but he's probably going to make things worse for himself because now my guess is they're more interested in him. So this is a high school party, right? Is it maybe that people are smoking weed and drinking at this party? Why don't we take our Mr. Kool-Aid, our guy with an attitude, over and talk to him alone? Officers. Okay.
And actually, we'll let one officer handle this because we have another young man who claimed to be 21. Clearly not 21. So now the officer might want to talk to him as well. Come on over here.
Okay, what do we ask you, Mr. Kool-Aid?
What's your age?
I'm 16.
What else would you want to know? Yep, go ahead.
What was going on during the party?
Do I have to answer? Okay. Since I'm already in trouble, really just dancing and drinking Kool-Aid.
You okay with that?
What was in the Kool-Aid?
It was, what was it? Sugar, water, flavor. The flavor was, no, it's red Kool-Aid.
But there's vodka in there too, though, right? Because you guys saw some vodka, didn't you?
I saw vodka? What?
If you don't tell us about the vodka, you're going to be the one that goes down for it because you already gave us attitude.
Okay, let me explain real quick. I know, I just realized that I'm done talking, okay?
All right, great. Mr. 21, can I help you out here? So, you're 21. Were you the one who bought the liquor?
I was joking when I said I was 21. I am not 21. I am 12.
All right, I'm going to need to see some ID. Do you have ID with you?
I have the right to remain silent.
Okay, let's pause right there.
Okay. Is it a crime to tell a cop you're 21 when you're actually 12? Yes. What is the crime? Any ideas? False information, right? Again, for public safety reasons, the cops need to know who they're dealing with here at the party, right? So then by admitting, oh, I was just joking, I'm actually 12, what did he just do there? Exactly. He admitted the crime. But Jonathan was right, the officer there was right, that him being 21 at this party full of young people and maybe there is vodka here or maybe there isn't vodka here, is that a crime? Yes. Contributing to the delinquency of a minor is a crime. So buying someone who is not yet 21 booze or marijuana or anything illegal is a crime. So what could we have done differently here from the very beginning? What could we have changed? Not let him in. Do we think these officers have a warrant? No, they just got a call 5 minutes ago from a 911 call.
No.
Say again? What was the question?
No, you didn't do it. Everybody just kind of looked at you right there.
So really, by
Did you buy
letting them
liquor?
in, that was where the snowball happened, that all of a sudden everybody's names were getting taken. And what do you think the signs that the police would have if there was a party where high school kids were drinking? It would smell like alcohol. Do people act differently when they're drinking? Sure, right? The cops always write slurred speech, bloodshot, watery eyes, indicia of alcohol, right? That's what they always say in every report. So people act differently when they're drinking, and it's a crime to drink when you're underage, right? Minor in possession. Minor in possession has serious, it's a minor crime, but it has serious consequences. If you get if you get 2 minor in possessions, you can't get your license. You get your license taken away for a whole year. Minor in possession can also have a negative effect on college, admissions, getting financial aid, all of those things.
So let's ask this question. Who is you're the homeowner, or the resident, right? And your parents are away. You feel as though your rights are being violated. What do you think the right move is at that point?
Just doing what the cops want me to do, and then after letting them know that they violated my rights.
That's a good answer. Anybody else think anything different?
Either asking them to leave or calling your parents.
Okay, that's a great answer as well. So who is with the, may I call my parents right now? You're in your house, right? You haven't violated any laws. Anybody okay with, may I call my parents right now? Okay. How many people are with the just complying with the officer and then telling my parents about it later? All right. Legal opinion.
You're definitely better off to get an adult involved rather than just waive all of your rights and let the cops come into the house and look around, right? But that's in the hopes that your parents also understand their rights and understand your rights. Who here thinks a lot of people's parents tell them to talk to the cops and let the cops in? A lot of people's parents do that, right? Because I don't know about you guys, but my parents, a lot of my friends who are parents, their kind of whole thing is, look, admit what you did and the consequence will be less, right? If you lie or you stay silent, can you stay silent with your parents? Surely don't have a constitutional right to stay silent with your parents, right? And if you stay silent when you've done something wrong, it's usually not a good tactic, right? So calling your parents is a good idea, but it's not always going to solve all your problems because they might say, of course let the cops in, right? There's a bunch of underage kids drinking in my house. They don't want to be the ones that get in trouble if someone hurts themselves or gets alcohol poisoning, something like that, right? So the best thing to do here is to have not opened the door in the first place. All right? Thanks to our volunteers.
Thanks, guys. You can have your seats.
So we have a little bit more time. I think we're done with hypotheticals. So do we have any questions? Do people have questions about any of this? Go ahead. Sure. You can use the restroom.
Absolutely. You have a constitutional right to use the restroom.
Nobody has questions? Everybody's got this thing aced? Go ahead.
When you're in school with, like, say you have a locker and they say, they search your locker, do you say yes or can you say, like, they can't?
That's
Excellent
a great question.
Who here thinks you can say no if the school resource officer asks you to search your locker?
There's a couple hands.
So, of course you can say no, right? What if I came to your school and said, hey, do you mind if I look in your locker? Just like some lady from the Educating Children of Color Summit. What are you going to say? No, right? So, of course you can say no. And anytime you are given a choice by a person in authority to have something searched, if a cop says, hey, do you mind if I look in your trunk? Are you allowed to say no? Yeah. What if all I have in my trunk is a yoga mat and some reusable grocery bags? Can I still say no? Yeah, because it's the Constitution. I have a constitutional right against my trunk being searched. I often see in cases that people give permission to have their stuff searched and illegal stuff is found when had they said no, the cops would have had to leave, right? Because if you think if the cops have a warrant or they're allowed to under law search your trunk, they ask you? No, they just say pop the trunk. Or they just say give me your keys and they pop the trunk themselves, right? So in school, you have a lower expectation of privacy in school than you have out in the world. Why do you think that is? For safety, right? School is a place where young people have to come. Education is compulsory until you reach a certain age. So the law mandates you go there, and they want children to be safe when they're in school. So you have lower expectation of rights. But anytime anyone asks you, can I look in your locker? You can say no, because although it's not as high of a standard, they still have to have reasonable grounds. Do you think Johnny smells like weed in 6th period? Is someone text safe to tell that? Do you think they can search your locker? Right, and they do. But if they ask you, hey, can I search your locker? Can I look in your bag? And you can say no. And then if they're allowed to do it, they'll take your bag and they'll search anyway. Okay?
Another interesting context about the locker question, and I've seen this before, is do you own the locker?
No.
Who owns the locker?
The school.
So sometimes they bypass even asking you and ask the school, do we have permission to open this locker?
Yep.
And then the scenario is?
If they have, cause to do so, they can do it. Yeah. Another thing about school is written statements. So we've talked about that you have a right to remain silent. Do you have a right to remain silent if the school asks you to write a written statement about something you've done? Yes? No?
How many think yes? You don't have to write a statement if you don't want to.
Okay.
And how many people think no? Raise your hand. Come on,
You have
guys.
to write a statement. The principal says write a statement about that fight that happened before 5th period. You have to write it? Okay. Good guesses. Thank you for participating. The answer is no. Not because you have a Fifth Amendment right, because a principal is not a cop. You only have a Fifth Amendment right when you're dealing with a government actor. So a cop, an FBI agent, someone working on behalf of the cops. But you still don't have to, the principal doesn't have any authority to make you write a statement. So you can't say you're off, principal, I'm gonna assert my right to remain silent, but you can say, I'm not going to write a statement. I want to talk to my lawyer, right? What's the principal going to do? They can't force you to write a statement, all right? Any other questions about school? Any thoughts about school? So, good question. The question is, what if they're saying you're going to get suspended for 2 days if you don't write a statement? That's a tougher call, right? I think that if you're actually guilty of something and you might get suspended anyway, it's a better idea not to write the statement. But what if you were in a fight and you feel like you were the victim? This guy attacked me because there's some beef over whatever and you're the victim. Then maybe you want to write a statement. But if your statement is going to be, oh, I was mad at that guy, so I waited till after class and I jumped and started hitting him, you're probably going to get suspended anyway, and so the principal's just lying to you to get to you to make his job easy, right? And do you think the principal gives that written statement to the cops? Yes, right? Yes, of course they do. I mean, it's evidence that you committed a crime. So the best idea is to stay silent even at school.
Any other questions? Nothing? Okay. Well, how are we on time?
We've got about 5 minutes. I think they're good probably to go to lunch.
Okay, yeah.
Unless you can think of anything else.
What is your number one responsibility? What was that? I would change that to get home safely, because get away safely implies, and I think this might be a great conversation here. What if I'm an officer and Hannah is a young person here, and I approach her and ask her for her name, and I ask her for her date of birth, and then I ask her a question that's not constitutional. What do you know about this fight, or whatever it is? And she flees me. She just decides to take off running. Wait.
If she just runs away, you could chase her.
And I heard the other part, or shoot her. We're laughing about this, but these are real life scenarios, right? There was an instance in Missouri a few years ago where a young man unfortunately lost his life after a police contact, and the scenario was that, or the alleged incident was that the young man fled the officer, and the officer, for whatever reason, feared for his life and shot him and killed him, right? So let's talk about that. Can Hannah run from me instead of asserting her rights and saying, I don't have to talk to you?
Or am I free to leave? So let's back it up a little. If I just see the cops roll up on my block and I start running away, is that against the law? It's not against the law. The case is called People versus Outlaw. It's a Colorado case that went to the Supreme Court. but it's not a great idea because it draws attention. You can definitely, oh, here come the cops, I'm gonna leave, right? I'm gonna walk carefully, slowly away, right? In that scenario, if Jonathan comes up to me and asks my name, my date of birth, I have to give it to him. And then if he asks, hey, do you know what the deal with this house is? People are always come and go, and I saw you were in there. That's when I ask, am I free to leave? If I'm free to leave, what do I do? Exactly. Do I start seeing like, F the police, I hate, do I start talking like that?
You ain't gotta talk to me. Like,
Yeah. Not the time for that, right? If you have something you want to say against the police, you can do that. You have a First Amendment right to do that, but it's not a good idea to do it when you're having contact with them. It's a good idea to do it as an activist out in the world and to volunteer and to do that kind of work, but it's not a good idea to do it when you're in the moment with the cops.
All right, you guys were wonderful. Was
Yeah,
this
thank
a
you.
good use of your time?
Okay.
Do you feel empowered now if you're ever in this situation where you have police contact? All right. Do you feel like you are ready to write your own episodes of Law and Order? Just kidding. Look, I just want to thank you guys for taking time and spending time with us, and all my volunteers came up. I really had a good time. This is one of my favorite workshops, and always have a great time going through these scenarios. Hannah, anything you want to share with us?
No, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.
All right, you guys have a great afternoon. Enjoy the rest of the summit.